What's up, you guys? I hope you all are doing well. I'm back with another video, and I feel like I want to shed some light on President Trump. And, I was doing a little research on a list of things that, he was big and he stood real strong on during his debates when he was running for office. And I just can't seem to get the death penalty for drug dealers. And so I wanted to kind of, fill myself in on the information about the death penalty when it's given to, drug traffickers. So I just did a deep dive and I want you guys to take a look at, you know, a little bit about what countries gives the death penalty for drug trafficking, and also pay attention to how much drugs that a person can be trying to move or sell that will cause them to lose their life. And I did all these researching and I wanted you guys to take a look at it. So I'm going to break it down in a few steps, and I got a couple of videos. So let's dive off into the countries that has the death penalty for drug trafficking. And I'm going to drop that video right here. You guys watch this.
What countries have the death penalty for drug trafficking? Hello, curious minds. Today, we're diving into a rather sobering topic: countries where drug trafficking can lead to the death penalty. Buckle up, because this is going to be an enlightening journey. Now, you might think that drug trafficking is a serious offense everywhere. Well, you're right. However, in some countries, the punishment is particularly severe. Let's start with Asia. Countries like China, Indonesia, Iran, and Malaysia have laws that allow for the death penalty in drug trafficking cases. Quite severe, isn't it? Moving on to the Middle East, we find similar laws in countries such as Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. In these nations, drug trafficking is considered a high crime, and the death penalty can be applied. Now let's hop over to Africa. Here, we find that Egypt and Libya are among the countries that have the death penalty for drug trafficking. Finally, let's navigate to the Americas. While most countries here do not apply the death penalty for drug trafficking, there is a notable exception: the United States. However, it's important to note that this punishment is rarely used and is generally reserved for cases involving large quantities of drugs. So, there you have it. A whirlwind tour of the globe, exploring the country.
Capital punishment in China should not be confused with death sentence with reprieve, which is a form of lenient sentencing that is handed down by Chinese courts as frequently as, or more often than, actual death sentences. Death sentence with reprieve is used to emphasize the seriousness of the crime and the mercy of the court, and is sometimes inaccurately added to the number of actual death sentences. Capital punishment was one of the classical 5 punishments of China's dynastic period. In Chinese philosophy, capital punishment was supported by the legalisms, but its application was tempered by the Confucians, who preferred rehabilitation and mercy over capital punishment. Confucius did not oppose capital punishment absolutely, but did take the view that in a well-ordered society based on moral persuasion, capital punishment would become unnecessary. Historically, poorer and lower status Chinese were most often subject to capital punishment. However, officials and others of high rank were put to death as a means of social control in times of war, internal disarray, or strife. For example, King Wu of the Western Zhou ordered officials who violated royal regulations, failed to carry out their duties, or promulgated innovations to be put to death. 39 military officials were executed following a peasant uprising during the Tang Dynasty. The 6 gentlemen of the 100 Days Reform, who advocated social reform in the late Qing Dynasty, were executed. By both confirmed and estimated data, the number of executions from capital punishment in China is far higher than any other country, while the number per capita is comparable to Vietnam and Singapore, and lower than several other countries, including Saudi Arabia, Iran and Iraq. The number of executions has dropped steadily in the 2000s, and significantly since 2007, when the Supreme People's Court regained the power to review all death sentences. For instance, the Dui Foundation estimates that China executed 12,000 people in 2002, 6,500 people in 2007, and roughly 2,400 in 2013 and 2014. Given conservative and variable estimates of executions in China account for more than 58% in 2009 and 65% in 2010 of those worldwide. Capital punishment is a legal penalty in China. It is commonly applied for murder and drug trafficking and is a legal penalty for other offenses. Executions are carried out by lethal injection or by shooting. China, with 55 offenses still punishable by death, is now believed to execute far more people than the rest of the world combined, even though the nation does not release official statistics.